Hi, everyone. While we're waiting for people to join, if you want to, in the chat, put where you're dialing in from, and maybe also put how many national shows you've been to, whether this is your first national show, or maybe your third, or your fifth, or maybe your 20th. We're going to give people just a few more minutes to finish joining here, and then we'll get started. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started so that we can be respectful of everyone's time and stay on schedule, and people can join throughout as the presentation goes on. So first, for some introductions. Hi, everyone. I'm Melanie Boren. I am a National Show Committee member. I may have met some of you because I'm the co-chair of the national or the annual meeting committee. But I originally put this slideshow together back when we were doing it, just last year in Nebraska. And we had a lot of people from Wyoming and Colorado that were planning on attending the national show for the first time. So I put this together and it was really well received. So we are just going to make updates every year and continue to present it. Our other presenters tonight are Miru Kunst, our 2025-2026 ADGA alternate youth rep, and Dr. Fauna Smith. She's the head vet for the National Show Vet Check and has been a volunteer on the National Show Committee for a long time. Also tonight, we have Heidi Vanderloop with us. She's our ADGA Communication and Marketing Specialist, and she'll be managing the chat, letting people in into the presentation, and we'll be hopefully answering questions as we go. And I also have Laura Warren Hughes on. She is the chair of the National Show Committee. Laura, would you like to say anything before we get started?
Yeah, just that. Thank you, Melanie and Miru and Dr. Smith for doing this. And we're just really excited about the national show coming up in just a little over a month. And really appreciate everybody's enthusiasm and patience as we get more information out. And we're going to have a great show. So if I can be of help or answer any questions for anybody, or you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to get hold of. So just glad to be here tonight.
Thanks, Laura. All right, just so that everybody knows what to expect, what our agenda for tonight will be, we'll do an overview of the national show. And then we'll be going in chronological order from literally what you can do today to get ready all the way through the show. It's okay to take screenshots as we go. You can take pictures with your phone. This video is being recorded and will be available on the ADGA YouTube channel as well. So we want to make sure that everybody has all the information that they need. If you can write your questions down as you go, we'll go through any at the end if they haven't been answered. So feel free to put them in the chat as we go, or you can just write them down, and then if anything didn't get answered by the end, let us know. And for youth, anything that is youth specific is marked with a big yellow explosion-y star. So you won't miss it. I know we have a lot of youth coming locally from the New England area, and many of them, it's their first time at nationals as well. So we want to make sure our youth are well prepared. So first of all, where to find information. The best place to find information is your ADGA emails and news and events. Those are going out, it seems, more than monthly. We're getting regular updates through email, anything from when entries open to when rules are posted and things like that. The ADGA National Show webpage is nationalshow.adga.org. So it's a different webpage than the regular ADGA page. We have the official ADGA National Show Facebook page, and that is managed by Heidi, and all the official communication goes out on that. And then we also have an ADGA National Show discussions page, and that is more of a social page. It's where people can post if they are looking for members for fitting team or people to caravan with. So you can find both of those on Facebook. So the rules were posted today. So the best place to answer probably 99% of your questions are in the rules. And there's two places you can find those. If you go onto the webpage, hover over exhibitors, and in that drop-down menu, there's the National Show rules. And then they're also pinned right there to the homepage, show rules. So I highly recommend everyone go on there, print them out, and keep them with you for the next month or so for some good quality reading. All right, when is the national show? The official dates for the show are Saturday, June 27th through Thursday, July 2nd. Saturday is check-in day, so everybody comes on Saturday, and then we stay through Thursday, and then we are released on Thursday. And we will go into detail on what happens on all of those days. But in the big picture, that's the schedule. And again, if you go onto the website and you click on show schedule, you'll get a detailed day-by-day breakdown of what's happening every day. And if you go to the bottom of that page, there's a PDF that you can download, and that will give you every day what's happening blow by blow, ring by ring. And so you can see here is just a screen grab of 2 of the days that we start early in the morning. We may go late at night. We have 2 rings going with 2 judges in each ring. So it's a lot. All right, next question is, where is this year's national show? This year, we are in West Springfield, Massachusetts at the Eastern States Exposition Center. It is more commonly known as the location of the Big E. So definitely on the East Coast. Then within that facility, we have the fairgrounds map. And so this is kind of a high-level bird's eye view of the fairgrounds. We'll be in 2 locations on the fairgrounds. On the right-hand side are the horse barns, and this is where all the horse stalls will be located. And then on the left side is the barns, the Mallory complex, where all of the actual pens will be, and then the Young building where we will be showing. And we're going to do a deep dive into that, but just kind of at a high level, bird's eye view is if you want a horse stall, you'll be over on the right, and it'll be just a little walk over to the Young building to where we show. And then the pens will be right next to that. So then if we zoom in, we will mostly be in the Mallory complex, and that will contain a variety of 6x6, 8x8, and 9x9 pens. So a whole bunch of different sizes of pens to choose from. And again, we'll talk more about what that means and what that looks like. But just know that's where the majority of the pens will be. At the front of that is an arena, and that's where we'll have pens for the spotlight sale animals, and the Guernsey display will be right there as you walk into the building. So that'll be really nice. The Young building is the only building with air conditioning, and that will house our show ring, and our vendors will also be located in there. And then the Stroh building, which is adjacent to that, will be backup for any overflow pens we might need. All right, just looking at numbers, we have numbers from last year. We had 27 2,754 animals were exhibited, and they fit into 1,700 pens. So it's a big show. It does draw from nationwide. We will have people from all coasts coming to this show, although obviously more of the local folks do tend to come when it's on one of the two coasts. We had last year 201 youth participants, so a huge youth show, which is so great to see. And last year we had 35 fitting teams, which I think that pretty much maxes out the fitting teams that we can fit in the arena. And again, we'll talk more about what exactly that means. But this was a picture from, I think, three nationals ago. And we asked all the youth to come down and get a youth picture. So whoever was left at the end of the week there came and we got that photo. All right, so now we're going to go in chronological order. What can I do now to get ready for the show? So one of the first things we can do is find lodging. Make sure you know where you're going to be staying, you as the person, not as the goat. When I first put this presentation together, it was for Indiana, or no, sorry, it was for Nebraska. And in Grand Island, it was a very small town, and there were literally no Airbnbs left, probably 6 months out, and there were very few hotels. So when I was going through and updating these slides, I went on and checked. There is still a lot of availability. There are houses available for rent. There are rooms within houses available, and they are actually really well priced, especially compared to Grand Island. There are also hotels available, again, pretty reasonably priced. There is camping, and all the camping is handled through the fairgrounds. So we've got the link here for the fairgrounds RV reservations. It's also on the webpage, and I think Heidi has done a couple posts about it specifically on Facebook. So you're just going to go right to the Eastern States Exposition website itself, and they have a special link set up just for us to make reservations. You can sleep in a tent or in the barn for free. So if you're on a budget, there are some options for you as well. If you want to do tent camping, and that includes sleeping in your car, then you just have to fill out a form to reserve yourself a spot, and you can do that for free. Sleeping in the barn is allowed. The rule for this fairgrounds is all personal bedding materials must be put away by 7 a.m. each day. So they just don't want us overflowing out into the aisles and having our bed set up all day. They want it looking nice during the day when the public will be coming through and looking at all of our beautiful animals. We want to keep it looking nice. But the good news is sleeping in the barns is allowed. All right, what else can I do now? Registration papers. We're kind of getting on the cusp of getting too late to make sure all your registration papers are updated. I would definitely be using the rush feature if you need any updates. But the most important thing is that papers must be in the exhibitor's name. So if you have a goat that has been transferred to you, that transfer does need to be complete to enter the national show. Stamp duplicates are accepted. If youth are participating in the embedded show, the papers must be in the youth's name. The youth can still show in the open show and not be in the embedded show. And we'll go into a little bit more detail in the youth area about what the embedded show is all about. But just know that if you want to participate in the embedded show, the papers must be transferred to the youth's name. And we get a lot of questions about what is a herd unit. You can enter as a herd unit, and that's goats that are living together that are owned by an immediate family can enter as one exhibitor, a herd unit. So we could enter as the Boren family, and I could have my kids each have their individual animals in their name, and that's called entering as a herd unit. If you have youth that are part of a herd unit, you are allowed to show in the embedded show because those papers are in their name. Okay, another key one is check your tattoos. Every tattoo is checked at Vet Check, and that tattoo needs to match your CVI and your registration papers. So go ahead. So this is something that's kind of an easy thing to do now. You don't want to be caught by surprise at the Vet Check and find out your tattoo doesn't match. So right now, make sure that your tattoo is readable and your goat has one. Let's see, what if your tattoos are illegible? Can you use microchips? Yes, you can use microchips. They need to be noted on the registration paper, and they also need to be on the CVI. There must be evidence of a tattoo, so it cannot be an untattooed goat, and you must provide the chip reader. There are a lot of different chip readers out there. Our vets that work the vet check are very adept at using them, but you do need to provide that. All right, youth. One thing that is a requirement, probably for the last 3 or 4 years, is we do need to get you YQCA certified. And it's an online course. You go through it, you get your certification, and then you enter that certification number in either when you enter or on the youth permission form. It has to go in somewhere. You do need to recertify each year. Many states have gone to YQCA if you're in 4-H before you can show at your fair. So you don't need to take it again. You just use your existing certification number. In Colorado, we're still using MQA. So our kids have to go through and they just go online and take their YQCA certification. You use Google YQCA, and I think it's like, I don't know how much it is. There is a cost to get your certification, and then you select your age. And it is a age-appropriate test that goes through, you watch little modules, and then you take the test. And it's for all ages. Okay, entering the show. So entries are scheduled to open at noon on Friday, May 22nd. So mark that day on your calendar. And more importantly, they will close at midnight on Friday, June 12th. There are no late entries for the national show. So when they close, they close. Make sure that you make a note that it is midnight Eastern Daylight Time. If you're on the West Coast and it's 10 o'clock, you're going to run into the deadline. Also know that entries this year will be through the Showman app, and this will be the first time we'll be using the Showman app, but I'm very optimistic that this will be a good move. A lot of people are using the Showman app and are already very familiar with it. So that's how we'll be doing our entries as well. And you can see right now, there's a button on the homepage on our website that says entries open 5/22. As soon as they open, I think they're going to open at noon, Heidi will change that and it will say enter here or something, and you'll click on that and it will take you directly to the Showman app. Okay, so we got a little bit of a sneak peek here at the Showman app at what it's going to look like. Basically, across the top, there are tabs, and you have entries, questions, and then where you pay. So your first tab, after you enter your name and address and all of that, is your entries. And so you're going to click that blue button that says New Entry, and you're going to select one at a time what you will be entering. So you can see their Guernseys are on exhibit this year. Yay, go Guernseys. If you have Guernseys, you'll select that. If you have a junior doe or a senior year doe, you'll select that. And then we have non-show animals, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We have group classes, and then down below are all the youth activities. So you'll go in goat by goat and select each goat for each class that you want to be in. Then there will be some questions. Probably the pens will be in there, but I'm not 100% sure. I haven't played around in the app yet. And then, of course, you will pay. Okay, so what are the fees? The entry fees really haven't changed too much. I think they're the same as last year. So it's $22 a class to enter for a goat, and it's $11 for a group class. The pen fees are going to range between $30 and $60 for a pen, and that's because the pen sizes range from 6x6 all the way up to 9x9 maybe. I'm not really sure what size the llama pens are. And then if you want a horse stall, which is a much bigger stall, those are $70 each. So that's kind of the range of entry fees and pen fees, and that will hopefully help you budget a little bit. Nursing kids and non-show animals must be entered as a non-show animal, and that is $22. So if you want to show mom, but she's got some kids on her and you need to bring them along, they have to be entered and paid for. They also must be on the CVI and be penned together. So no animals are allowed to be kept in trailers or out in the campground. If you are bringing a goat to sell to someone, but maybe they aren't entered in the show, that's okay, but they have to be entered as a non-show animal. And this just got posted today, so I quick went out and grabbed it. This is the official National Show fee chart. So if you haven't seen this, quick take a screenshot or a picture of it. This tells you the different names of the pens, sheep pen versus hog pen versus a llama pen, what the size is, and what the fee will be. So again, this should just help you to be able to plan a little bit. Okay, when you're entering the show, you should enter all of the goats you think you might bring. Of course, you can always scratch, but you cannot add. We also have a substitution policy, and I think that's on the next page. But again, there are no late entries. National show entries are handled via the Showman app. So one question we get a lot is, oh, I have money in NG. Can I use that? No, it is not tied to NG at all. It is Showman, and you have to pay. I think credit card is your only option, and you just pay to enter. And again, all animals must be in the exhibitor's name, no sign transfers. All right, youth. We have
Melanie?
4 youth. Yes. You want me to go back?
I just from personal experience, goats can show on a signed transfer if they show under the current owner's name, not the person whose name is in the transfer. So like I have shown my own goats that I am selling to somebody. It's a signed transfer at the bottom, but I still am showing the goat and I still own it.
And I think you have to enter it.
And I have to enter it. The current owner has to enter it.
Right, right. So the current owner has to enter. Good point.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, for youth, we have showmanship, fitting team, judging, and a management contest. Mira is going to go into in-depth in each of those, but for entering, just know that we really want to support the youth and encourage all youth to participate in the national show. All of these youth classes are free to participate in. And youth are the only division that may come just for the weekend. So if you're a youth and you want to participate in the national show, you absolutely can just come for the weekend. You do have to go through the vet check on Saturday morning, but then you are allowed to leave at the end of Sunday. Many local youth will come and just bring their goat just for showmanship on Sunday morning, and that's totally fine. The youth pens, we do have youth pens. If youth are coming and they need a pen just to hold their goat until after showmanship, make sure that you indicate that on your youth entry form. We do have free pens for the youth, but it's only for that one night. And those actually become our holding pens for the show. So once we get that finalized, I haven't seen that in Showman yet, but I know that that traditionally is something we provide to youth at no cost, and they can stay for one night. Yes.
Hey, Mel-
Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah. So Melanie, there is a $10 pin charge for youth pins.
Oh, there is. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it
the
is. It's
actual
just $10.
classes are free.
Yes, but
it's
if
a
you need a
$10
pin,
pen.
right, if you
Okay.
need a pin, it's a $10 fee, and you can purchase that's on the same page as where you purchase other pins for your animals. It's on that page.
Got it. Got it. And then I did have on there that the doe will still need to have the CVI and clear vet check. So they cannot bring them in that morning for showmanship. They do have to come in the day before.
Correct.
Okay. So all goats do have to come in through vet check, and then some of those goats are going to stay and show for the show. But if you're just coming for youth and you're leaving after showmanship, then you'll just get that $10 pen. All right, we do have a youth embedded show, and a lot of people wonder what that is. What does that mean, youth embedded show? So it's where the youth can enter a show, enter a class. It is limited to one entry per class, and that goat must be owned by the youth. They go in and show in their regular class, and they get a placing in the regular class, but they also get a youth placing. And you can see in that top picture that Sable Doe was 16th in the senior doe division, whatever class that was, but she got second place overall youth. So there was one youth ahead of her, and then she got second. So it's something that we do for the youth to be recognized that they're out there showing at a national level. And then all the youth first place winners get to come back for youth premier, senior, and junior doe of each breed. And that's that picture down below shows the Nigerian class from a couple of years ago. And again, that is just a really huge honor for the youth, and really neat that we're able to provide them their own show as well without adding in an additional show. So that's what embedded show means. And in some years in the past, you have had to enter twice. You enter for the regular class, and then you have to enter for the youth embedded class. And we always end up with people that forget to enter one or the other. So this year, using Showman, it's just a question in your entry. So here, this shows you an example of senior dairy doe. And after you put the animal's name in, there's a question, and it's that shaded one. And I didn't get it with the drop down, but it says yes or no. And if you are an adult or you're not doing the youth embedded entry, you just say no, and you just answer the rest of the questions. But if you select yes, then your entry is flagged, and we know who all of our youth are. So again, this is hopefully going to make our lives a lot easier on the end of running the show. And it's just a really easy way for you when you're entering your goats to flag that as, yep, this is a youth embedded entry or not. Every youth does need a permission form signed by their parent or guardian while they're there at the show. Those will all be online, and we'll have those shared out at some point. They'll either be sent to the people who have entered for youth, or they'll just be, we'll make an announcement that the youth permission forms are online. Group classes.
Melody,
so make
sorry.
sure. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. The youth permission form is going to be uploaded into Showman, and it's a fillable PDF, so they can fill it out and then
So it'll
upload
be
it.
part of their registration.
Yes, it will.
Perfect.
So,
Okay.
yep.
Love it. Okay, if you enter group classes, make sure you read the rules. There are some group classes, Get of Sire, Produce of Dam, that the goat can be owned by multiple people. The goats can be owned by multiple people. But for the best three, then there's a best three senior does and a best three junior does. They must be owned and bred by the exhibitor. You don't need to decide which best three until you see how they place. You might bring 20 goats. You would then select your best three, and you would bring them in, but they all need to be owned and bred by the exhibitor. Tattoos, we have a surprise tattoo check in every breed, and they'll be in those group classes. So if you enter a group class, have your registration papers handy, and we'll do a tattoo check and compare them against the registration papers and make sure that they are owned and bred by exhibitor.
Just to clarify, Melanie, that if you're entering as a herd unit, the best three, the exhibitor is the herd unit, and so you can actually have does bred by different members of the same family showing a best three.
Good point. All right, I'm going to make a note. Herd unit. Okay. Thanks, Heidi.
That was Fauna, but you're welcome.
Thanks, Fauna.
Thanks, Fauna.
Okay, scratches and substitutions. So before the June 12th deadline, I think you can just make changes in the Showman app. You can make changes all the way up until when you pay, I believe. But after June 12th, from June 13th to the 22nd, you can make one-for-one substitutions in the Showman app, but no substitutions will be allowed on site. This is a new rule this year. All substitutions must be made through the Showman app and must be made by midnight on Monday, June 22nd. No substitutions will be allowed in person at the National Show check-in. So this is a change. So for anyone who has shown previously, you might enter two different junior goats or enter one and then think, oh, this one looks better, and sub them out. So we need to know that ahead of time, because we will be doing a lot of printing and verifying and doing things before you guys actually show up. So that will be through the 22nd. And then it's locked in. Who you've entered is who you've entered. You can always scratch. You can scratch all the way up until the day of the show. But for substitutions, we do need to know that ahead of time.
Hey, Melanie,
Yes.
this is Laura. Can you jump back to the page that you had? Yeah, one more. There's a question in the chat about, for best three, does the family qualify as the mama's bred by and youth is the showman? So what needs to happen is, when you look at the registration papers on that best three group, the breeder has to be the exact same breeder for all three, and they have to be owned by the same owners. So for example, like in my herd, I had some goats that were bred by my daughter and some goats that were bred by me. And even though we were a family herd unit or a designated herd unit, we could not enter that in best three because the breeders were different. So I hope that answers the question. The next one that Margie asked for, dairy herd, can siblings own lots in that class? If you are a designated herd unit, you can show in a dairy herd. So the breeder doesn't matter on that one, but the best three, the breeder has to be identical. I hope that clarifies that a little bit.
Thanks, Laura. I know we do always get questions on that. It is confusing. All right, just a few pro tips. When entering, my advice is always to enter early. Pens are assigned in the order that entries are received. So that one right there should motivate all of you to start figuring out who you're going to bring. And as soon as entries open, go ahead and get those entries in. And the reason for that is, I don't know how many sheep pens there are versus hog pens versus llama pens. But once we run out of one, or that those pens are taken, then we go on to the next one. And Laura and the team who's doing the pens, it's like a giant Tetris puzzle that they're having to put together with all the requests that come in. So just know that the earlier you get your entries in, the more likely you are to not only get the pen that you want, but to be either penned with friends or be just any request that you might have if you want to be in the horse barns or whatever. The early bird gets the worm on that. So that is about the order. And then you can request to be penned near friends, but all entries must be received before they're assigned. So if I say, oh, I want a pen by my friend Heidi, but Heidi hasn't gotten her entries in yet, then mine are going to be held until Heidi gets hers in. So it's always a good idea, if you want to be penned near each other or in the same area, to get your entries in close to the same time. And I do have another slide here with even some more detail about that. Yes. Okay, if you are sharing pens with friends, perhaps you're traveling together and maybe there are 2 or 3 of you sharing a trailer. It is advisable to have one person order the pens. So if you don't just need to be near each other or you want to hang out together, but truly your goats will likely be sharing pens, coordinate ahead of time and have one person order the pens and then put in the notes that you're traveling together. And then your friend who you're traveling with will also put that in the notes. And that is super beneficial when we are assigning pens. Laura, do you have any other comments on that?
I was just going to say, when you see the page where you sign up for pins, it will ask you the number of pins, and it does say what barn, like what size pins and what barn you're getting. And so I'm working with Showman to make sure that it's almost kind of like when you go shopping at Walmart online. Once it's sold out, that option isn't there anymore. I'm hoping that's how we're able to do it. So I just want you to know if that's the case and you go to try to get a certain kind of pin that you wanted and it's not there, well, it's because it's sold out. Now, what Melanie said about like if you absolutely have to have pins together, like you're sharing tack or you use the same milk stand or whatever it is, make sure that one person is the person who's ordering, and then there is a box on there that says, are you purchasing pins for someone else? And you put the name of the person in there. And then on conversely, is somebody else purchasing pins for you? So I don't anticipate that we're going to have a problem with reducing pins, but that's going to help us, know why one person who's only entering 10 goats has 15 pins ordered. So, make sure that you make full advantage of using those notes fields, because that really helps us to make sure that we do the very best for you. We know that, you want to pin with the people that you want to pin with, and we want to make that happen if we can.
And we have a few questions in the chat about, do they need to order pens for Guernseys?
Yes. So the Guernseys have their own section in the pinning on the page where you order pins. And yes, that's where you order those.
Yep. And then how do you know if they need to bring panels so kids don't get out?
Let's see, I do have a slide on that. So
Perfect.
hold on, that'll be coming up.
All right. Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Laura.
So here are two pictures of just some examples of pens. This first one, the picture on the left, shows that these were 6x6 pens, and they just go all the way down with no breaks. So a lot of times you might end up with 2 pens on one side and 1 pen on the other side or something like that. What we did with our Nigerians that year, we just took that middle panel out and made a big double pen. But you can see how wide those are. If I had junior does, they'd walk right through those. We just received this photo of the llama pens, which I think are the biggest pens. But they also have pretty wide bars. If you've got alpines, you're probably going to be just fine. But if you have Nigerians, you're going to need to think about, can they get through those? And okay, give me a few more slides and we'll have some solutions. So we have had some questions about the feed order. There will be a feed vendor on site, and that is feed and bedding. The pre-order should be opening soon, and that will be on the webpage. You'll click on, I think it's on the homepage right now. It just says feed coming soon or something. When you click on it, you can pre-order bedding. You can pre-order bales of alfalfa or grass hay or whatever's available. And the pre-order should be ready when you arrive. So this was one year we showed up and all of our bedding and our first bales of hay were stacked either right by our pens or right by the door where we were coming in, and they had our names on them. So know that that's an option. And then that feed vendor is usually open throughout the week. So you can go down, and maybe your goats are being picky about hay. You can try a different bale of hay, or you can get some more feed or whatever. And then obviously get bedding as needed throughout the week.
So Melanie, I just wanted to say, I have not talked with the feed vendor yet. That's coming. We'll put out more information about what kind of feed is available, what quality of hay is available. I'm going to tell you up front now, it's not going to be Western alfalfa. So, it's just going to be at that. And if pre-order, like where they should have that delivered, I'll see if that's an option too. I don't know for sure that it is. So.
Right. Sometimes you do have to go to their feed vendor booth with your cart and schlep your feed and bedding back. Good point.
Exactly. Also, were you going to talk more about pins, Melanie?
Yes, it's
Okay.
when you arrive. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so continuing through chronological order is the next thing you will need to do is schedule your CVI. And Fauna, do you want to take it from here on the CVI?
Yeah, let me get back in my truck because it's noisy out here. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I'll talk about CVIs and house rules. The important things are, so a couple of things, the rules of the show and the rules for the state of Massachusetts are that your CVI is valid for entry into Massachusetts for 30 days. And so your CVI must be issued within 30 days of June 28th. However, if you live in a state where they check your CVIs on return to the state, so Florida and California would be the two biggest ones, your CVI is only valid for 30 days, and that includes getting back into your state. So you actually need to do yours within 30 days of the day you're going to re-enter your state of origin. So not for the rules for the show, so if you're a local to the show, 30 days is fine. But if you are coming from afar, you need to check with your state as to how long it is good for re-entry into your state. And your veterinarian should be able to should know that and be able to help you. Make sure that you read all of the rules, and the rules really should, I believe I have looked at them, are really just a copy of what the state of Massachusetts requires on the CVI. We can go to the next slide. So I noticed in the chat somebody was asking about CVI. CVI stands for Certificate of Veterinary Inspection, but most people just refer to it as your health certificate. And that is certifying that the animals have been inspected by a veterinarian and that they meet all the requirements for entry into the state of Massachusetts. This here is an example of one from Wisconsin. Every state has their own kind of form, and so this might look a little bit different depending on what state you are originating from. The health certificate can be a little bit different. Next one. So again, CVI has to be issued within 30 days of arrival, but check with your home state. So you can see circled there in 1, the date of the show, and then the date of the inspection must be within 30 days. And then you need to have on the origin and the destination. The origin is going to be your farm's address. It cannot be your postal address. It needs to be the physical address of where the goats live. And then the destination is going to be the exposition grounds in Massachusetts. I just saw something pop up in the chat question about are there any shots required for Massachusetts? No. The only extra thing for Massachusetts would be anybody coming from Michigan. They may require additional testing for tuberculosis and brucella, but everybody else should not require anything additional. One of the really, really important, this is the #1 reason why goats either do not get to show at the national show and or we have people desperately trying to get hold of their veterinarians on Saturday morning. Please check that the tattoos on your CVI are correct, because if they don't match the goat and they don't match the registration papers, the CVI is not valid and therefore they cannot show. And so every year there's probably 15 to 20 animals that require somebody trying to get hold of their veterinarian on a Saturday morning to get their CVI fixed. So double check this. You should also include your registered name or the barn name of the animal. Tattoos are the most important. That is the legal requirement. If the tattoo is illegible, then an EID can be used in its place. The EID must be on the CVI and it must be on the registration papers, as in it has to be on the registration papers printed by ADGA. You can't just write it on the registration papers. And then You also, one of the other issues that we see a lot is that herds that are bringing lots of animals, they think they're doing their veterinarian a favor by writing out a whole list of all the stuff. And then the veterinarian attaches that to the CVI. That is fine as long as the veterinarian signs and verifies that they wrote or used that PDF of the animals. It can't just be a random piece of paper attached to a CVI with no verification that the veterinarian okayed it. So that's another common error that we see. And then Massachusetts does require a statement. This has to be on all of the CVIs. And I took this quote unquote from the Massachusetts Department of Ag's website. All goats listed are free of scabies, lice, foot rot, sore mouth, and have not been exposed to scrapie. So that needs to be on all of the CVIs for entry into this show. You also, again, I cannot reiterate this enough, compare what you put into your entry to what is on your registration papers to what is on your CVI, and they need to all match. And if they don't match, get it fixed before you get there. Yeah, and they have to match what's on the goat.
Thanks, Fauna. If you have any questions specific to CVI, go ahead and put them in the chat. We will talk about vet check separately. So this is just CVI right now. All right, another thing you can do before the show is to plan your route. If you're coming locally, it might be a direct route, but some people come from all over the United States and it might be a multi-day trip. Some places to consider staying are fairgrounds, horse motels. You can also stop in rest areas, or there are parking lots. There are a lot of different ways to get to nationals, but basically what you want to do is work backwards from your planned arrival time on Saturday. And again, we'll talk about that in just a minute here when we get to vet check. And then the last thing that you will want to do before you hit the road is to thoroughly inspect your animals before loading them for your trip. If you are questioning your goat's health, leave them at home. And that's just one goat. If you have 3 goats that look fine and one that maybe has something, just really give it some thought of if that goat should come to nationals. Okay, here we go. Plan your arrival. So that check is on Saturday, June 28th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is the lineup, I don't know, last year or 2 years ago. And truly, this is what it looks like. You will get into line with all of the other trailers and slowly make your way to vet check. Now, the actual line does move pretty quickly. There are usually 3 stations set up, and so the line keeps moving, and we try to get people in and out as quickly as possible. One question we always get is, when can we start lining up? So right now that is TBD. I know Laura's working with the fairgrounds to verify exactly where we'll be lining up at and how early we can begin lining up. But I will say this, once you are on the fairgrounds property and in line, you may not unload animals. You can get in the trailer with them. You can offer water. You can milk out in the trailer. You can wipe noses and check poop and do all of those things, but you may not unload your animals. So if your goats do need to be milked, maybe consider coming in at 5 a.m. and pulling off, you know, some parking lot area outside the fairgrounds and taking care of that, then reloading them, and then come on into the vet check line. You don't have to be there right at 7 a.m. There's usually a big rush from, you know, maybe 7 to 10 or 11, and then it definitely dies down and people will trickle in all day long. If you have youth, know that youth must be checked in by 1 o'clock. So all of our youth activities happen on that first weekend and they start on Saturday. So we need to make sure all those youth get checked in. You may not live a whole day away, but you want to get there early in the morning. So you may consider spending the night somewhere just right outside of the fairgrounds and then come in first thing in the morning and get through that check. Okay, vet check before you leave home. All right, I see Fauna added a slide. Fauna, you want to go ahead and add this one?
I'm coming.
Oh,
Hold
maybe
on.
we'll, oh, okay.
I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask. So one of the things that is really important before you leave home is to go over your animals with a fine-tooth comb. And if it looks suspect, leave it home. And the reason for that is that if your trailer, any animal on your trailer, has something that looks like a contagious disease, the entire trailer gets sent home, not just the one animal. And then the other thing that has happened every year that I have been involved with this is that multiple owners come on the same trailer. And if one animal from one of those herds has something wrong with them, all of the exhibitors get sent home. So one of the best things to do is if you are coming with your friends, have your friends check your goats and tell you what you should put on the trailer or not, and vice versa, so that we don't have any surprises when you get there. The two most common reasons that whole trailers get turned away are ringworm-like lesions and sore mouth-like lesions. And the reason that I say like is because we are not, as veterinarians on that day, making a definitive diagnosis. We are looking at something and saying, is this consistent with, or is this not consistent with? And if it is consistent with, it doesn't matter if it's actually that disease or not that disease. So that terrible looking mouth on that doe on the bottom, that would be turned away because it is sore mouth-like lesion. That goat actually has zinc deficiency dermatitis, but it doesn't matter that her diagnosis is not sore mouth. She looks like she has sore mouth. And so these two are really common. So any circular crusting lesion has to be considered ringworm. So even if it's an animal that got really bad bites, but they crusted or scabbed and are circular all over the body, then you need to consider leaving that animal home. And then sore mouth-like lesions, any scabs, crusts, pustules, or ulcers around the mouth, teats, or vulva would be considered consistent with sore mouth, and then the entire trailer has to go home.
All right, thank you, Fauna.
And
so
then,
once you get,
do you want me to finish vet check?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the important things is that don't unload the goats until you're instructed to do so. One, let's make sure we have enough handlers and people to help. Two, sometimes things are moving really fast in vet check, and so sometimes we need to move people around. So until you're asked to unload your animals, you want to have both your CVI and your registration papers in hand. The tattoos are going to be checked against your CVI, and if they don't match, then they will be checked against the registration papers. We only check registration papers when there are questions, when questions arise between the goat and the CVI. If your goat has any powders, lotions, potions, oils, obviously on them, you will be asked to remove it before inspection. And we have a few trailers every year. Probably the biggest one is baby powder that people use as a way to block sun rays, so as a kind of a sunscreen. But we can't do our job to truly assess the skin of the animal if they have stuff on them. So if you have stuff on the animal, it needs to be removed before you go through inspection. And then the other thing that we do see a lot of is stress or travel related illnesses. And the common presentations of these are respiratory disease, diarrhea, and down animals on a trailer. Admittance to the facility in these situations is going to be at the recommendation of the veterinary team and the discretion of the National Show Committee. And a lot of times these animals are animals that need veterinary care. and will get that veterinary care and may or may not be allowed to stay. And again, whether the whole trailer is turned away or not depends on the presentation. If every animal on the trailer has a foul smelling, horrible diarrhea, the entire trailer is going to get turned away. If you have one animal that's exhibiting signs of stress or what we would consider to be travel related, oftentimes those will get some care and then we will be rechecking them. But one of the things, I think people have a lot of panic about this, because we all know if you're coming any distance, these things just happen while animals are on the trailer. They'll get, a snotty nose, they'll get diarrhea. And we do our very best to assess whether we think it is truly a major contagious issue or whether it's an individual animal issue.
Fauna, is there anything that you recommend, like giving your goats before you leave home, that might help be supportive care along the road?
I think the biggest thing along the road is ensuring that they have good access to feed and water on a regular basis. If you're traveling long distances, there are lots of potions and all sorts of things that people want to use, but really, like the basics: feed, water, look at your trailer. Like this last year, I entered a bunch of goats. I was loading and I'm like, this is too many goats on the trailer. So I left a couple of does home. Like you need to have room, you need to have airflow. If you're going through the hottest parts of the country that have high humidity, making sure that you have adequate airflow into your trailer, those types of things, and food and water are the most important things.
Perfect. Thanks, Fauna.
All right, once you get through vet check, will they be getting a vet check card this year? I know that's one thing that we've done in the past, where they get a vet check card with maybe their barn or a map, or they have to turn that in when they check in. To be determined, I guess. So
there is a
then
vet check there. Melanie, there is a vet check card. Sorry.
Okay, so
Yep.
Don't lose your vet check card. Once you get through vet check, put that somewhere safe. And then the next step will be unloading. And this is always really stressful because people are circling the parking lot. They're trying to find their door. They're trying to find the closest way in. They've got goats on the trailer that are hot and tired and need to get off. And then you've got to find your bedding vendor and get your pens sanitized and set up. So just know that everybody is going through it, and everybody kind of has their own strategy. Some people just like to unload those goats, get them off the trailer, and then find the bedding. If your trailer is the comfy place to be, maybe leave them on while you get your pens set up. This is one example that we did for biosecurity. Is we just brought a lot of tarps with us, because you don't know when you get there who's going to be next to you or across from you. Will you be on a corner or an end, or will you be right in the middle? So in order to be prepared, we just brought a bunch of tarps so that we could unload quickly and then kind of figure it out after that. Then you'll probably be asked to either park your trailer or move into a more open part of the parking lot to let other people in to unload. And then you'll have to schlep all of your stuff out of your truck and trailer and into the barn at that point. Again, another word about pens. So this was a facility where the feed vendor actually dropped our bedding that we had purchased into our pens. So when we showed up, they were already there. That was amazing. I don't want to say that that will happen this year, but that is something that could happen. And then the picture on the right shows, we had brought our tarps, we tarped, but the goats across from us were some really tall, nosy alpines, and they just reached their big old heads right over the pens and were nose to nose with our goats. So we ran over to Home Depot and just got this little bit of fencing and put it up, and it ended up looking super cute and kept the goats back off the fence. So just tips and tricks. A lot of times you might have to get creative and make a run to Home Depot or somewhere to make sure that your pens are set up the way that you want them. And then this was the picture I was thinking of, where not really knowing until you get there if you're going to have pens with horizontal slats or vertical slats or how far apart they'll be. If you can come prepared with maybe a roll of snow fence or one of those X pens that you can just plunk in there to keep babies or skinny yearlings intact and in their pens. It may only be a temporary solution until you figure something else out, but these are two things that we've used with great success. And this is one of my favorite pictures. There's always the goats that will just get out of anything. And this poor goat had pens and liners, and it kept getting out and kept getting out. And finally, we came in one day to find that the owner had just tied all of these extra pen sides up to keep it in. It looked horrible, but it actually worked and the goat stayed in. So don't feel bad if your goat is an escapee, and it happens to everybody. All right, so now you've got your goat unloaded and your stuff unloaded. Your next step is check-in. So you're going to bring all of your papers with you. You'll bring your vet check card, your CVI, your registration papers, and a copy of your entry. So bring everything you've got to check in. Be prepared to wait in line. Hopefully it will not be a long line, but it's a good place to visit with your fellow exhibitors, and you might see some old friends or make new friends. And when you get to check in, you might actually see the association president or one of your directors. This is all run by volunteers, and we're all working to get everyone processed and through in a short amount of time. For youth will also check in at the youth table, and the youth reps will work the check-in. So for youth, you're going to do your regular check-in, you'll check your registration papers and do all that. Then you'll go over to youth and get the youth check-in.
Yes, and Melanie, a big holdup at the youth check-in is that youth permission form. So again, if you have
yes, that's where we verify the permission forms.
Yes,
right.
So if you have youth embedded entries, or if you are a youth participant, please fill out that form in advance and upload it into Showman, and that will help keep that in line at a minimum, because then we can just verify that it's on file, and then that way it just helps us, so that way you aren't sitting there filling out a copy to turn in. So please, if you can, fill that out in advance.
Good point. At check-in is where you'll receive your back numbers. Every goat entry has its own number. Do not misplace these. So these will be your entry into the show ring on your designated show day. You can see that some people use number clips or back clips, or we see safety pins and all different kinds of hooks and things. But the biggest thing is to make sure that you keep the number handy for your show day, which might not be for almost a week. So keep it somewhere safe with your registration papers. Are youth getting a separate number this year?
They will not, Melanie. We just discussed this today as an office staff. There's no way in Showman to print out separate embedded youth back tags. So there will be bright colored dot stickers that if you are a youth entry, you will put that sticker on that tag, so that way our ring steward and our show secretary know that you are a youth embedded entry. I'm not sure what color we're getting. They might be bright orange or bright green, but that is how we will recognize that you are a youth exhibitor.
Excellent. Also, just a quick plug for the American Nigerian Dwarf Association. They will be donating those number pins again this year. So when you get your welcome bag, look in there and you'll get a free number pin. Okay, on to the fun part of Nationals. One of the fun parts is the displays. And the displays can be anything from large professionally done banners with furniture and plants and carpeting, to just a homemade table with some photos or flyers. It's just a great way to kind of showcase your herd, to make your area stand out a little bit and get a little bit of advertising. You can do curtains. You can give away candy. Those bowls had candy in them and with Cherry Tree Farm, and they were empty every day. I always like this one on the left, the Royal Cedars and Hidden Meadows. They brought like poles and attached them to the corners of their pens and then had little curtains, like little mini curtains that went around them. And this was in my barn, and it was a huge barn, and I always lost track of where my goats were. I got disoriented, so I would just look for that display, and then my goats were right next door. So that's just another way to kind of pop your area up a little bit and bring some attention to your display. And one of the cool things about the displays is really just walking around and seeing herds from all over the United States that maybe you've only seen on Facebook or you heard about, you know, famous goats and famous herds, and being able to walk right by and see those goats, and you might be penned in the same barn as them. And so it's just very cool. So these are just some more ideas for displays. You can do banners, you can do signage, big or small. For the vendors, we always have the ADGA table will be there selling t-shirts with last year's champions on the back. We will also have state raffle baskets. Our Doe Kid raffle, I think, is online. But we'll also have breed clubs and a variety of different vendors. So the vendor area is always a great place to hang out and buy some cool goat swag while you're there.
Yeah, and Melanie, on that point, they can pre-order their t-shirts online. I will put the link in the chat here in a minute.
Oh,
Excuse
excellent.
me. Yep. And they can pick them up at the
show.
Yep, and yes. And so you just have to have an ID or your receipt to pick them up. And the raffle will be online. The raffle will open up coincidingly with the national show entries, so next Friday. So all of the raffle kids will be featured next week on the National Show Facebook page. The donor herds have already been featured. So just, again, keep checking back to that National Show Facebook page for that information. And we'll be building out the raffle kid websites too, so you can look at supporting animals, all of the things. And we just appreciate the 10 herds who are sponsoring, some of those who are on tonight, that these raffle kids, because they are beautiful and they have outstanding pedigrees and outstanding genetics.
Awesome. Do you know, Heidi, will there also be shirts available to purchase if you didn't plan ahead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Some people like to see sizes. Some people like to see the colors in person. But you can see them all online too. So yeah, I get it. Like some people like to buy their shirts in person. Yeah, but I can't guarantee there will be your size when you get to the national
Right. They
show.
do sell out every year too. Yep. So try and get there early. All right, Miru, are you ready?
Yes, and I'm going to keep my camera on for 2 seconds so you can all see me. Hi, I'm the alternate youth rep for this year, and I'm going to be turning my camera off because my computer can't handle that. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the youth activities. We heard a little bit about them from Melanie, but just going into a little bit more depth. So this is what our schedule is going to look like on Saturday when you come in. Again, you'll have your youth check-in. That is mandatory. So make sure you go to youth check-in, make sure everything's squared away, and have your permission form signed. And then we have the mandatory youth orientation at 2 p.m. on that day. And then later in the afternoon, we'll have the youth judging and management contest. And then in the evening, we'll have the youth mixer. This is not required, but it's a great event to go to meet other youth, catch up with others, and just get excited for the weekend. And then we also have the all exhibitor meeting at 9 p.m., but that is typically the time that youth are getting ready for with their showmanship animals. So you can send a parent to that as well if you are not able to make it. And then starting Sunday, we have showmanship at 8 a.m. And then at noon, we'll have the youth fitting teams, or it might be a little bit later depending on when showmanship ends, but they typically give a little bit of a break right after if it does run over time. All right, the youth orientation meeting. Those are your youth reps from 2 years ago, but I will be there, and it's just a great way for everyone to learn about the weekend, hear about some of the different rules and events that are going on. And also, that is when you sign up for your fitting team. So make sure you have your team together. And if you don't have a full team, you can always find someone here as well. A little bit later, we have the youth management and judging contest. This is split up differently than showmanship and fitting in terms, well, fitting is not split by age, a little bit differently than your typical showmanship age groups. It's only juniors and seniors. So there are different management exams by age group. But if you have a younger youth or they need a little bit of assistance, there are also adults that are going to be working that can help read questions or help them as needed. And then you also have the judging contest. Those are typically live animals. You'll have a few different classes, and sometimes you will have reasons if time permits, but I've never done reasons in the past. And then that night we have our youth mixer. Typically we do have pizza. So that's a great way to get to know other youth and just de-stress after the day. And then that evening is when you're going to be doing all of your showmanship prep, especially if you traveled a long way to get there. You're probably reclipping your goats, but either way, you want to get most of your prep done that evening so your animals aren't tired in the morning and they're all ready to go in the morning. And then showmanship starts at 8 a.m. Typically, we start with the juniors and then one of the intermediate categories, and then it moves on after that. So you do have showmanship in both rings at the same time. And if you are in the second category, then you will want to be paying attention to when the previous group is finishing up. You don't want to have your animals ready at 8 a.m. if you're the second group showing, and you don't want to tire your animals out. So just pay attention, especially if you're in a barn a little bit further away. Pay attention to that time, but make sure your animal isn't getting tired out before you go in the show ring. And you also want to show does milked out. They're in the show ring. I think I was in the show ring for 2.5 hours last year, and we don't want to conflict with your show fill if maybe you have breed classes that evening or the next morning. So all does should be milked out. There are a little bit stricter rules for the national showmanship. You're only allowed to have plain white shirts. You can't have any herd names or logos allowed. And typically I'll wear my best show weights that day, and making sure you're clean and you're ready and you're looking your best as well. Something that we also do a little bit differently at the national show is we'll have 2 judges in the show ring at the same time, and those are called your lead and your consulting judge. So you will have 2 judges, but one of those you will pretend isn't there. The lead judge is the main judge. That's the judge you're looking at. That's the judge you're using to make sure you're on the right side of your animal. The other one is just a second set of eyes, and they're helping the lead judge, but typically just ignore them. And then that afternoon, we have the fitting team. This is a team made up of 4 youth, and you have 30 minutes to take an ungroup goat and make it ready for the show ring. So you are expected to have no prior preparation before you get into the ring, except for hooves. You're not allowed to trim hooves while you're in the show ring, but they will come around, the judges will come around and they will check armpits, they will check feet, and they will see your goat before and they will see it after. So even if your goat doesn't look perfect, if that one has the most improvement and they've seen the most teamwork, then you might end up winning as well. So it's really important to really focus on making the most out of that time that you have in the ring. And a lot of people will actually do, which way do we go? A lot of people will actually do group costumes. This is not required, but Group spirit also helps a lot, and it's also a great activity for you to do with your friends. So a lot of people will have cautions that they have on while they're clipping to keep their show whites clean. And they'll also have different signs and displays to put out at the end as well. But at the end of that 30 minutes, you need to be in your show whites. You need to have that animal ready to be presented for the judges.
Before we go on, Heidi, do you know if the youth rules have been posted yet?
We are working on getting them approved, and they should be up early next week.
Okay, one comment is that we do require each team to provide a goat. We don't provide the goats for the fitting team, but many times you can find goats that are already there at the show and owners who are more than happy to have someone take their goat and get it all clipped and cleaned up.
There also are a lot of rules for what you can bring into the show ring, but it is a list and it's a lot easier to read in the rules. So make sure you check out those rules as well when they come out.
And I think this slide just kind of shows that one of the coolest things about the national show is all the youth who, especially as they get older and have met each other throughout the year or years at convention and national shows, that it's just a great time for the youth to get together and really have a good time and kind of cut loose a little bit. Okay, so other questions that we've had about what to expect at the national show. The national show used to have an official milk out and your goat was checked, but we haven't had that for a few years. There is no official milk out. However, the judges have been instructed that over-uddered does are to be excused. So use your own discretion. Know that these classes can take up to or over an hour each. So if you have a 4 or 5-year-old, you may not be showing until closer to noon. So it's up to you to really manage your doe's milk capacity production appropriately. The national show does have a dress code. Whites are required, both top and bottom. No shirts with any logos or graphics other than your herd logo or the official national show t-shirt is allowed. So no AC/DC t-shirts. We just want everybody looking professional. No hats, no tank tops. There's a whole section in the rules for dress code. And the reason for that is our judges are likely wearing suits. They're dressed up. Our youth reps many times are color coordinating with the ribbons, and they're dressed up. So it's definitely a step above a regular show. And the entire show is live streamed, and there are hundreds of people watching online. So we really want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward and really representing the dairy goat industry in its best possible light. As far as setup goes, on the day of your show, you're going to want to get in place before the show actually starts or have a plan in place for sure. If you only have one doe and she's a 5-year-old, you might want to just leave her in her pen until the 3-year-olds are in the ring. But if you're showing multiple animals and you need to have your whole herd in place, then you will need to have helpers with you and have all of your goats be brought down and ready to go well before the show starts. You can bring camp chairs and set up in the sort of staging area. You can bring hay feeders and water buckets. You might want to bring snacks and reading material for yourself because it's going to be a long day. They will, if you're missing from the ring, they might do a call, but once that class starts, you don't want to miss your class. So you'll want to kind of check out the situation and have a plan in place. Another thing is if you do have multiple goats, get those handlers lined up ahead of time. This is not like a local show where you can just say, hey, can someone hold another kid for me? You need to have everybody ready to go. And then you'll want to have one person that stays with the goats that are tied up to make sure that they don't get into trouble. So if you can watch the show the day before and kind of see how people are doing it and put a plan in place before you get there, that's always a good idea. You can use that Facebook discussions group to help find handlers. A lot of times you'll get 4-H youth will volunteer to handle, or you can find people that way, but don't enter 4 junior kids and expect to find people to handle at the show.
And Melanie, just so you know too, and our exhibitors too, our volunteers, our ring stewards will be wearing basically mint and green shirts. So that way you will be able to identify them and find them, hopefully, to check in.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Laura has her hand up.
Yeah, and I just also wanted to say too, on the dress code, the ring stewards will be monitoring what people are wearing as they go into the ring. So if they see something that is questionable and is not keeping with the very well spelled out dress code that's in the rules, you'll be asked to stop and change. And we've had that in the past, and there's been some people who are, kind of upset by it. But, we are really mindful of the fact that this is the national show and we are on live stream, and there are people all around the world who are watching this show. And this is our premier event, and we want to make sure that everybody looks professional. So, just keep that in mind. And also, anybody who goes into the ring has to be dressed in, long pants and closed-toed shoes, and has to look good. So if you aren't showing, but maybe you think you're going to go in and help with a group class or whatever, remember that you need to be dressed in show attire as well. So we want to make sure that everybody looks good and puts their best face forward.
Excellent. You can see from these photos, some of these classes are huge. And if there are a lot of goats in a class, they might make 1 or 2 cuts. And you might hear people saying, oh, I made the cut. And that's a big deal. If you're in a class where it's an honor to be asked to remain in the ring, that's a big deal. So just know that you could be in the ring for upwards of an hour in some of these large classes. In showmanship, you can plan on 2 hours. And another cool thing about show day is it's just a chance to really celebrate each other. I love both of these pictures because the one on the left is a national champion being chosen, and everybody was so excited. Other exhibitors were excited. The people watching were excited. It was very cool to be there in person. And it doesn't matter if you are 18th place. I love this picture because this goat made the cut, and she was in the top 20 in a national show. And so to be happy about getting 18th place, I think is great and just shows good sportsmanship. There will be a photographer there. They might be in the ring taking pictures, and there will also be a backdrop setting with the photographer and possibly other helpers there. Please be respectful of the photographer. Don't take pictures over their back or their shoulder. Let the photographer do their job. Many times you'll have extra helpers there doing squeaky toys or something to make the goat look. You might have extra people setting out ribbons and awards and saying put the goat's foot back or forward or whatever. A lot of times there's a line for the photographer. So just know that's a big thing, but don't pass that by. Even if you didn't get a ribbon, you got excused from the class, go over and get your picture taken. It's just great to have that memory of the national show with an official picture.
And Melanie, the photographer is Alexis Redun. Laura and I met with her a few months ago, and she is fantastic. We're actually going to have 2 backdrops. And so again, like the backdrop photos are really meant for the photographer, and for purchase. And I will also remind people that sharing the photographer's photo with like her logo or her image on it without purchasing it is technically against the law. Okay. So we want to be mindful that we are being good stewards to our photographers and purchasing the pictures that she is providing. If you want to go somewhere else on the fairgrounds and take your own pictures, that's on you. But like, don't like take a picture off her website with a watermark and reshare it. Like that is absolutely inappropriate. And so just please be aware of that, that like photography is someone else's intellectual property. And so please be mindful that, you know, this is their living, and also they are able to sustain their living on the photographs that they sell. She is also
Right.
looking and yep, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we want to support our photographer, and we'll have links to where to find those photos probably during the show as it's going on.
Yes. And secondly, she is also looking for a couple of like older youth interns for our national show to help like get animals' attentions, things like that. I will put this in the next monthly updates. But if you are an older youth or know of an older youth that wants to help and maybe can help just one day or all the whole week, please feel free to email me, or I'll put my contact information in the monthly updates to have that information out there. So,
Great.
all right. Thanks, Melanie.
Yeah. Just a shout out to our volunteers. This show is run entirely by volunteer committee members. Everything from the show secretaries, the ring stewards who are checking you in, the people at Vet Check holding the animals, and the people working the live stream. Everybody really pitches in to make this national show a success. If you are finding that you have a day off and you want to help, definitely reach out. We've always got something for somebody to do, and we really appreciate our volunteers. One thing I always recommend is, if you have a day off, is to try and do some sightseeing. Many times people are coming from other parts of the country, and this might be their annual family vacation, or it might be the only time that they're in a state that they've never been in. So really try to go out there, and whether you're going to the state capitol or going to a university or even a zoo or a park, just take a day and take in the local sites. Again, you're making memories that will be there forever. On the last day of the show, we do have a social event. These photos are from a couple years ago when the theme was 70s, and some people really got into it. That'll be at 1 o'clock, and I don't know exactly what the theme will be yet, but there's usually food and drinks, and you do have to buy tickets for it. But more information will be coming out about the social event. But again, it's just a great way for everybody who's, you're stressed out all week and you maybe don't want to talk to people until your show is over. But at the end, everybody's done and we can all relax and sit with our friends and enjoy each other's company. So that's just a fun event. And then following the social event, we have the spotlight sale, and that's our premier sale where the top animals who have been nominated and accepted will be sold. That is at 3 o'clock, and that is definitely not to be missed. Come and, like I do, sit on your hands and don't bid, or bid early and bid often. And then following spotlight sale, we have the awards, and the youth reps will be handing out the awards for all of the youth events, for the premier exhibitors. Just all the different production awards go out at this time. So again, that's just great not to be missed. And you might win an award, who knows? Release is usually following the awards between 4 to 5 p.m. and that's on Thursday. All animals and exhibitors must be off the fairgrounds by 10 a.m. the next day. I didn't put that on the slide, but that is inferred. So if you have a long drive ahead of you, you might just want to have your animals spend the night and get up early the next morning and pack up and go, or pack up and then leave the animals there and leave the next morning. So that's fine, but just know our deadline is Friday at 10 a.m. And that's our presentation on National Show 101. Hopefully we've been able to answer everybody's questions, but if there's anything that we didn't cover, feel free to put it in the chat now, and we will see you all at Nationals.
I recognize that photo.
Is it yours?
Yes.
Heidi says hamburgers and hot dogs. Let's see. So, I would definitely say read the rules for all the barn rules. Every year it changes a little bit what we can have in the barns. And some fairgrounds are super picky, like you can't have a mini fridge, but you can have a hot water heater or whatever. So all of that really fine detailed stuff of what you can have in the barns is in the rules.
No mini fridge. I can tell you that up front.
Yep,
No.
there's no mini fridge.
Nope.
Yep. Yeah, and again, if you are have friends who weren't on tonight, please refer them to our AgDay YouTube channel so they can watch this. And again, like, we're empowering you all too. If there's a question that comes up on social media, like, and you watch and this was answered in this presentation, like, feel free to answer it. That helps Laura and myself out immensely too. So
Let's see, I did see a question somewhere on showmanship. So
Carrie-
ADGA, oh, go ahead.
Oh, what is a super cooler?
Um,
And then where can we find more information on herd units?
I think that's in the rules.
Yep, in the rules.
Do
So,
kids
like-
need to be doe only?
Yes. Yep.
So
There's-
if you have a doe with kids, nursing kids, you're entering them as non-show animals? No intact males, no matter how old?
Right. No intact males, and they have to be ADGA registered.
Laura,
Yes.
is that an ADGA rule that they have to be ADGA registered?
The rule number 6 of the ADGA show rules, only ADGA registered animals can be shown. All dairy goats entering the facility must be registered with the American Dairy Goat Association.
Okay,
The origin-
because I answered a question. I answered a question to the CVI rule. They just need to have proper scrapie ID. But if the ADGA rule, then the ADGA rule would supersede the CVI rule,
Okay.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that's not a new rule this year. That's been in rules in the past that they have to be registered in order to enter the facility. So we copied that from prior year's rules. So
Yep. And then can you put pending and registration portion of showman if we're still waiting on the ET kid papers? We'll scratch if they don't come back in time.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I believe
Yes,
that's
you
fine
can.
too.
You
Yeah.
can, yes. Like
Yeah.
showman will accept pending.
Right, yeah, and just again, back on the nursing kids, no males unless they are spotlight sale bucks, but no nursing baby males can come. So
Castrated
Just
or
to-
not castrated, like either one.
Correct.
either one, yeah.
Just to loop back on the pens, the pens are assigned. You'll be able to choose. Maybe sheep pens are $30 or the hog pens are $40. So you'll be making the selection on the type of pen you want. Once that pen is gone, hopefully it will be grayed out and you won't be able to select it. Laura, do we know how many of each or no?
We do. I mean, I've been given that information.
I guess
Yeah.
just request what you
So-
want,
Just request what you
and-
want, yeah.
register early.
And let's see. Carrie had asked about super cooler. I don't know what that is unless you're talking about the ones that like plug in. If it plugs in, it's a no. If it's like just a regular Yeti cooler that doesn't plug in, that's fine, of course. But if it plugs in, it's a no.
For Guernseys, I believe there will be areas for people to set up displays, bring your advertising, and we really want to promote our newest breed. And
And
that is
fans-
an option on the pens.
Yes. And
The
fans
Guernseys
are
do have to all pen together. They're all
Yes.
in one group. So if you have Guernsey and another breed, your Guernseys will be penned with the Guernseys and your other breed can be wherever you request.
and fans are okay. Yes, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna leave the questions open for one more minute and I'm gonna end the event. Helen has a question, no cooking in the barns, correct? I'm assuming. So no crock pots, no, that is correct, yes, there's no crock pots.
No cooking in the barns.
Yep.
Can't cook in your pasteurizer either. If you use an instant pot to pasteurize milk, you can't cook in that. So,
Will things such as CDT
Anna.
scars get flagged at vet check?
Say that again?
Will things such as CDT scars get flagged at vet check?
No.
No.
They might, the veterinarian is going to notice them and touch them and feel them, but if it's in a location associated with vaccination, then no, they will be fine. If they're
Yeah.
open and draining, then that's a problem. But if they're a lump or a scar, no.
So are there usually food vendors? Yes. I don't know what ones though, Laura, maybe you do.
there are food vendors in each of the barns. So, but I don't know much more than that.
Yep. And then are Blackstone grills allowed near your tent or campsite? That is a question for the Big E. For the Eastern States Exposition, not the Big E, sorry. We can definitely, I would double check the camping FAQ first, Taylor. But we can reach out to the Eastern States Expo Center and get that question answered. The link on here for the camping, I did not include it. It is on the National Show website. If you go to the, let me just pull it up quick. I can link it here. Helen, just let me get my internet. It's under exhibitor, nope. Let me look. Under event info, venue and directions. That is where the camper information is. I will link that page here. Melanie, do you want to close it out? And again, the questions about stoves and or camping and like Coleman and those things, we need to double check the camping FAQ first. And then it might be a question to the Eastern State Expo Center. Again, we are not the experts on the facility. We are the experts on the show itself.
So this presentation was recorded and will be available on the ADGA YouTube channel. We will also be posting very frequently, maybe not daily, but quite often on the Facebook groups. So stay on top of those to learn about raffle kits, spotlight sale, when entries open, things like that. Heidi's also been sending out emails, so check your spam, make sure that your emails aren't going to spam. But we definitely are down to our last couple months here, and so we want to make sure that everybody has all their questions answered and make it as easy as possible for everyone to get entered and to come and have a successful national show. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you at the national show.